Hello, welcome back to another video. So today, as you can probably tell, I am going to be talking about all the books that I read last year, 2021. It looks like a lot of books, but I felt like I actually didn't get that much reading done last year. I think I'm kind of in a slump. Sort of started with the pandemic and kind of my habits changing. So like not being able to go to the library, not being able in the same routine that I had before. So I think that changed, and that changed where I found time for reading. And I feel like I don't find time for reading. But I thought I would share with you what I did read last year, because some of you guys like my book videos. And then we came to like a grand total of 27 books last year, which I know sounds like a lot, but I have in previous years read like up to 80 books. Anyway, the year began with reading The Vanishing Stair, which is the second book in the Truly Devious series by Maureen Johnson. Pretty good series, actually. It's a crime, sort of like, murder mystery-esque situation. It's set both in present, and also there's this girl solving a crime from like the 30s, which is kind of cool. It's kind of unrealistic in the sense that of course, a 16-year-old wouldn't actually be solving a crime, but nevertheless, it was pretty good. There's some good LGBTQIA plus representation, and also there's a little bit of disability representation and like actually good disability representation where there's a disabled character that comes along are pretty well like described, and disability is not their whole thing. So yeah, I read The Vanishing Stair and also read The Hand on the Wall, which is the third book, but I really enjoyed it. I gave it 5 stars, so I clearly really enjoyed it. And I definitely recommend it. I think it's something that I would actually reread at some point because it was a good series. Then I read the Once and Future Witches, and this is something that I hadn't seen at all when I bought it, and then after I read it, I saw some people on Bookstagram talking about it, which made me really excited. So this is set in 1893, and it's about these 3 sisters who are all have like witching powers. And it's really about like womanhood and like sisterhood, and they went their separate ways and then found each other and like fought the good fight against like the patriarchy and stuff. It's really good. I really enjoyed it. A little bit of gay representation, which is cool. There is a little bit of talk about like the racial situation between suffragettes, the suffrage movement, which I didn't realize that there was even like a thing, but now that I look back on it, obviously that makes sense, sadly. But yeah, it touches on that very slightly. I don't know, I just really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the whole story, but it does come with a little bit of a trigger warning for, abusive dads, specifically physical abuse mostly, and psychological abuse. It doesn't like describe those things in depth a lot, but they did have an abusive dad, so that is something that you should consider going into this. But I really, really enjoyed it, and it was a really good book. I really, really liked it. Then I read The Conference of the Birds, and this is the 5th novel in Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children series. I really like this series, so I'm continuing on with it. I don't know when the 6th book is going to come out, actually, so I should look into that. But yes, it was pretty good. I don't know, like, because we're on the 5th novel by now, it's kind of hard to, like, give you what happened in this book without spoiling what happened in the other books. So if you enjoy kind of middle grade, supernatural / like magical scenarios, this definitely is for you. It's very cool, like these kids go on an adventure, like coming of age kind of situation, all this time travel and stuff like that. It's just a really good series. It's really wholesome. Then I read The Book of Tomorrow by Cecilia Ahern. I've read a few of her books, actually. She writes like kind of contemporary novels, but with like a touch of magic. This is about this girl who, her dad dies, and her and her mom have to move with her uncle and aunt, and then she finds this book that tells her, like, basically like the book tells her what is going to happen the next day, and then she sees that like those things come true and stuff, and then like stuff unfolds from that. Trigger warning for like depression and stuff, because her mom's pretty heavily depressed. Oh, I started reading Mirage, but I DNF'd it. I was not enjoying it, so I gave that one up. Then I read Pride and Prejudice for the first time in my life. I know, it was quite late. And the reason I finally actually got around to reading this was because a lot of my friends are really into this book and just Jane Austen in general. So I thought, I'm gonna give it a go. I trust their judgment, and if they like it, it's because it's definitely probably good. So I enjoyed it. It was a fun read. I think there's obviously a lot of problems with it, of like things that are just really outdated, really poked fun at certain things that are still prevalent today. Even though it's to a lesser degree, but are still prevalent. So I enjoyed it. It was a good read, so I read it. Oh, next I read the Umbrella Academy comic series. There's 3 books there's 3 comics. The first one is The Apocalypse Suite. The second one is called Dallas, and the third one, Hotel Oblivion. It was good. I had fun reading them, but I think that the series, the Netflix show, is a lot better. Obviously, it changes the story a little bit from what happened in the books, but I feel like they did it in a way that is very smart and very much would happen. After you read the books, you're like, yeah, that totally could have happened that way instead of the way that it actually happened in the books. And I think that they actually did a really good job explaining some things that are not explained that well in the books, and that they don't go into that much depth about certain things in the books that they do in the show. Then I also read, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, and this is a prequel to The Hunger Games. Definitely was an interesting read about President Snow when he's a teenager. So it's basically from when last year of school and kind of his first job situation, very much about how he became more political, and just how kind of his backstory. I thought that it's quite a chunker, so I thought it was going to go into more throughout his life, but it really is just about a year or 2 of his life when he was a teenager, which does explain a lot, and it's really interesting to see where he came from and where he's going. I did think that there was going to be more of his life in here. Yeah, the Hunger Games is a new thing that they just started a couple years ago, so it's still taking off and stuff. I love a good villain backstory. I love an origin story. And I love a good prequel, so this was really fun to read. Oh, then I read Serpent and Dove, Enemies to Lovers situation. It was fun to read. The girl's a witch, and the husband, man, guy who she ends up with is a witch hunter, and then it kind of takes off from there. But I enjoyed it. It was fun. Then I read The Asylum. This takes in about the early 1900s. This woman has been in asylum for a few years, and she doesn't know why she's there. She doesn't remember. She keeps being told that she's not stable, that she's not trustworthy, and then this new doctor comes in that is trying to help her remember what happened in her life and stuff. She had no memories from her life before. And yeah, she starts to find out why she's there and what was done to her. A really good kind of thriller-esque, suspenseful read. I really, really liked this. Trigger warnings for rape and general mistreatment and horrible things being done to people. Next, I read Volume 7 of Sailor Moon. Yeah, really good. I love it. It's super nostalgic for me, so I really enjoy reading that. Next, I read A Darker Shade of Magic. I've seen this everywhere and finally got around to reading it. There's a few different parallel Londons, and they're all in different realms, but they all sort of fall in the same place, and it just so happens that they're all called London in every single realm. And there's this character who can travel through realms, and there's only 2 people left who have that ability, and sort of magic is dying. There's evil afoot. Really good fantasy. It's fun. It's adventurous. I don't know. It was a really fun read. I really enjoyed it. So then I read The Humans. Essentially, there's a alien who is placed on Earth in the body of a human. A lot of it is the alien kind of getting to know human habits and human social hierarchies and stuff, and understanding how the Earth works. as in how humans treat other animals and each other and stuff. And it's really, it's such a refreshing take on things, and a lot of it is like, yeah, that doesn't make any sense, why do we do that? And it's really, really interesting. Okay, then I read The Corset, and this was a really good read as well. It's also takes place in olden times. Basically, this girl is in jail, like is on trial for having murdered a bunch of people, and there's this lady who is from like, you know, wealthy class, who comes in and like talks to her and helps her. Like, it's more about like a charity thing where she comes in and like lets her vent to her. So the girl starts telling her about her life and her story and kind of how she got there. And it's really, really interesting. Like, it seems like she's crazy, but then you're kind of like, oh, okay. There's some trigger warnings for like abuse and stuff. It's really, really, really good. I really enjoyed it. It was super like riveting to the end. I was like, oh, no. It's one of those books, like if I could forget the outcome, I would love to read this again. So then I read Harry Potter. Read that a bunch of times. It's not that new. And then I read Chamber of Secrets. Then I read The Hazelwood. That was really, really good. I really enjoyed The Hazelwood. It was a really good book. I love like kind of witchy vibes, kind of themes of, are they witches? Are they not witches? Are witches dead? Like, I don't know. I just love that kind of vibe right now. And so I really enjoyed that. And then I read The Boy Who Didn't Come Home, which is like a short story about one of the characters in The Hazelwood. Then I read Blood and Honey, which is the sequel to Serpent and Dove. I liked the first one better, but you know, I want to know what happens kind of situation, so I read Blood and Honey. Then I read Six of Crows, finally. I still haven't watched the Netflix show because I want to read the books first. Our main characters are like in a gang, basically. They are offered to do a heist and to steal this thing in order to obviously make some money and stuff. So they decide to go and do it. Then, you know, it's the whole story of the heist and kind of their background stories, and then at the end something happens and it kind of ends on a cliffhanger, and I'm excited to read the next book, but I really, really enjoyed that. Next I read The Shock of the Fall, and it's about this kid whose brother dies, and it's written in a way that snaps of what happened. So the kid is writing stories, and also then there's diary entries, and then there's stuff that is narrated in a different way. So there's all different kinds of narration, there's all different kinds of viewpoints, timelines and stuff. It's kind of confusing to read. It is meant to be like that because obviously the kid in question who's telling the story is mentally ill. So I gave it 3 stars because it's not what I expected it to be. I thought it was going to be more like magical, and it turned out to be more like a serious read. It's good if you know that that's what you're going into, and it's kind of like, it kind of reminded me of like a darker version of, what's that book called? The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime. It's kind of similar to that book in the sense of like how it's written and how you're not sure if the author or like the narrator is reliable, and you're not sure if what the kid is telling you is true or not. It's not what I expected, I guess. So it's good, but it's kind of dark and heavy. Then I read Dark Matter, set in like the 30s, I think. No. Yeah, late 30s. So it's about a group of guys who go on an expedition to the Arctic, and then slowly things start happening where one by one they have to leave until there's only one of the people left in the Arctic by themselves in the winter where there's no sun and stuff. And apparently there's a ghost. There's all these like things happening, and it's kind of him like slowly losing his mind. I thought it was going to be really scary, and it is a little bit suspenseful and stuff, but it was really, really good. I really enjoyed it, and it's actually quite a short read, so I really enjoyed that. Next, I read The Tattooist of Auschwitz. Very different notes from the previous one. Based on a true story of a person who was in Auschwitz and who, you know, was given a job to be the tattooist, and it's kind of how he used that job to help other people and to survive himself. Obviously not, I don't think it's supposed to be a fun read, but yeah, I think it's one of those that's like, it's important for us to read about these things and not forget that this stuff really happened, and to kind of, hopefully stuff like this won't happen anymore. The last book that I finished this year, or last year, is Heartstopper. I read volume 1. This has been everywhere. Everyone's talking about it. And I think it's definitely like meant for an audience that's like younger than me. I don't know. I really enjoyed it. It's really wholesome. It's really sweet. It's about two boys who fall in love, I guess. One of them is out, and the other one isn't, like, doesn't know that they're gay, and they're kind of like finding that out, I guess. And it's really sweet. It's really, really sweet. So, oh, it's a graphic novel, so that's also helpful. If you want to read something that's really wholesome and sweet and gay, definitely, that's the one for you. I also started reading The Bear and the Nightingale, but I got to page 100. I was finding this really quite difficult to read because there's all these like different points of view, and I think I was just like starting to slump more, and I was having a hard time following the story. I don't know. I put it down. I haven't picked it back up again. I don't know if I'm going to finish it or not, but I thought it was going to be more magical. I think there will be magic eventually. It's just we haven't got to that part yet. It just feels like one of those that's like a really slow burning, slow beginning, and I like a bit of a more fast-paced beginning because then I'm like into it. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have read any of these books, let me know. Let me know what you thought, and let me know what you enjoyed reading last year. If maybe there's any suggestions for me to read in this 2022. Thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy this video, please don't forget to leave it a like and a comment, and consider subscribing to my channel if you have not done that already. It would mean a lot to me. I hope you are staying safe and cozy, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.